You are doing everything right. You went to school, you got the degree, you took the job, you show up early and leave late and answer emails on weekends. You pack your lunch sometimes. You have not taken a real vacation in 2 years. You keep a budget on your phone that you update every few weeks when the guilt gets heavy enough. And still, at the end of every month, you look at your bank account and feel a quiet kind of confusion. Not panic, not yet. Just this low hum of something that does not add up. You are not poor. You know this. You can pay your bills. You can eat out occasionally. You have a car that works and an apartment with heat and a job that gives you health insurance. But you also cannot do the things you assumed you would be able to do by now. You cannot buy a house. Not in any neighborhood you would actually want to live in. You ran the numbers once, then you closed the tab and did not open it again for 3 months. You cannot save the way the articles tell you to save. 20% of your income? You would laugh if it did not make you feel like it's a failure. You cannot imagine having children, not because you do not want them, but because you have done the math on daycare. You have seen what diapers cost. You have realized that the life your parents gave you is no longer available at your price point. And the worst part, my friend? You cannot explain this to anyone. Because on paper, you are fine. You are not struggling in a way that is visible. You are not in crisis. You are not eligible for assistance. You are not part of any conversation about economic hardship because you do not fit the picture. You are in the middle, and the middle is disappearing. I'm Lehan, and let me show you the math. Not to make you feel worse, but to make you feel sane, because you are not imagining this. The ground beneath the middle class is eroding in real time, and almost no one is explaining it in plain language. Let us start with the most basic comparison. In 1985, the median home price in the United States was approximately $82,000. The median household income was around $23,000. That means the average home costs roughly 3.5 times the average annual income. Today, the median home price is over $400,000. The median household income is around $74,000. That means the average home now costs nearly 5.5 times the average income. That is not a small shift. That is a generational transformation. Your parents could buy a house with 3 years of income. You need almost 6. And that assumes you have a down payment. That assumes you have not been paying off student loans for a decade. That assumes you have been able to save at all. But here's what makes it worse. In 1985, the average down payment was around 10%. Banks were more flexible. Lending standards were different. Your parents could get into a home with $8,000 in the bank. Today, with home prices where they are, a 10% down payment is $40,000. And in competitive markets, sellers do not even look at you unless you're offering 20%. That is $80,000, just to be considered. $80,000. That is not a savings goal. That is a fantasy for anyone starting from zero while paying rent, paying loans, paying for a car, paying for insurance, paying to exist in an economy that increases prices faster than it increases wages. But let us keep going. Let us talk about college. In 1980, the average cost of tuition at a public four-year university was approximately $800 per year. Adjusted for inflation, that is around $2,800 in today's money. Today, the average in-state tuition is over $10,000 per year. At many flagship universities, it is $15,000 or $20,000, and that is just tuition. It does not include housing, food, textbooks, or fees. A student graduating in 1985 might leave school with a few $1,000s in debt, manageable, payable within a few years of working. A student graduating today leaves with an average of $33,000 in debt. Many leave with 50 or 70 or over 100,000 if they went to graduate school or made the mistake of trusting a private university's financial aid package. And the jobs waiting for them do not pay what the jobs used to pay. Not when you adjust for inflation, not when you account for the credentials now required for entry-level positions, not when you factor in the unpaid internships, the gig economy, the contract roles with no benefits. The equation is broken. You are told to go to school to get a good job. The school costs more than ever. The job pays less than ever in relative terms. And the things the job is supposed to help you afford, a house, a family, a future, cost more than ever. You did not fail the system. The system failed the math. Now let us talk about something nobody wants to talk about. Let us talk about what happens when you do everything right and you still cannot get ahead. Let us say you are a household earning $100,000 a year. That sounds like a lot. That is more than the median. You should be comfortable. You should be building wealth. You should be middle class in the way your parents were middle class. Let us break down where that money actually goes. Federal income tax, FICA, and state tax will take somewhere between 22 and 30%, depending on where you live. Let us say 25%. That is $25,000 gone before you see it. You are left with $75,000. Rent or mortgage. If you are in a mid-sized city or a suburb of a major metro, you are likely paying somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 a month for anything decent. Let us say $26,000 a year on housing. That is considered reasonable by modern standards. It is also more than a third of your take-home pay. You are left with $49,000. Health insurance. If your employer covers part of it, you might still pay $200 to $500 a month for a family plan. Let us say $4,000 a year. And that is before copays, deductibles, prescriptions, and the out-of-pocket maximum that resets every January like a recurring nightmare. You are left with $45,000. Childcare. If you have one child in daycare, you are paying somewhere between $12,000 and $25,000 a year depending on your city. The national average is around $13,000. Let us use that. You are left with $32,000. Car payment, gas, insurance, maintenance. If you have one modest car, you are spending somewhere around $6,000 to $8,000 a year. If you have two, because both partners work and there is no public transit, double it. Let us say $10,000 total. You are left with $22,000. Groceries. For a family, you are spending somewhere between $800 and $1,200 a month if you are being careful. Let us say $10,000 a year. You are left with $12,000. Utilities, electric, gas, water, internet, phone. Another $3,000 to $4,000 a year. You are left with $8,000 or $9,000. That is your margin. That is what remains after you have done nothing wrong. After you have lived modestly, after you have made no extravagant choices, $8,000 a year. That is supposed to cover savings, retirement contributions, an emergency fund, student loan payments if you still have them, car repairs when something breaks, medical emergencies when the deductible hits, birthday gifts, school supplies, a vacation once every 2 years if you are lucky. $8,000. And if one thing goes wrong, a job loss, an injury, a broken transmission, that margin disappears. You are not building wealth, you are barely maintaining altitude. This is the middle class in the current economy, not thriving, not struggling in a visible way, just frozen, running in place, watching the finish line move further away with every passing year. And here's the part that makes it cruel. Your parents did not have to live like this. In 1970, a single median income could support a family of 4. A mortgage, a car, and modest savings. One income, not 2. Not side hustles, not freelance gigs on the weekend. Today, 2 incomes often cannot achieve what one income used to achieve. And yet, the expectation remains. The script remains. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, start a family. The script was written in a different economy. It was written when a college degree was rare and valuable, when housing was 3 times your income, not 6, when companies still offered pensions, when healthcare was not a catastrophic financial risk. The script has not been updated, but the economy has. You are following instructions from a world that no longer exists. And when you fail to achieve what your parents achieved, you blame yourself. You think you should have worked harder, saved more, chosen a different major, been smarter, been luckier. But the math does not support that conclusion. The math says you are running the same race with weights on your legs that your parents never had to carry. Let me make it even more specific. Let us compare 2 people. The first is your father or your mother or someone from their generation. We will call them Michael. Michael graduated high school in 1978. He got a job at a manufacturing plant. No degree, just a high school diploma and a willingness to work. The job paid around $15,000 a year. That was good money at the time. He bought a house for $42,000. His mortgage payment was around $350 a month. That was about 25% of his income. He married young. His wife worked part-time while raising 2 kids. They had 1 car. They took a vacation once a year to the same lake cabin. They were not rich, but they were secure. By the time Michael was 40, he owned his home outright. He had a pension waiting for him. He had savings. He had built a life that was stable and predictable. Now, let us look at you. You graduated college in 2015. You have a degree that cost you $40,000 in loans. You got a job that pays $55,000 a year, which is more than Michael made, but not when you adjust for inflation and not when you account for the loans. You rent an apartment for $1,500 a month. That is 32% of your gross income. More than the recommended 28%, but you have no choice. This is what apartments cost now. You have a car payment because you could not afford to buy a reliable car outright. You have insurance that costs more than your parents' insurance ever did. You have student loans that take $300 a month and will continue for another 12 years. You are not married, not because you do not want to be, but because the thought of adding another person's financial chaos to your own feels terrifying. And children, you have done the math. You cannot make it work. Not yet. Maybe not ever. By the time you are 40, you will not own a home. You will not have a pension because pensions do not exist anymore. You will have a 401k that has been battered by 3 market downturns and contains less than 1 year's salary. You will still be paying rent. You will still be catching up. Michael and you are not different because of character. You are different because of timing. He entered an economy that was expanding, that rewarded average effort with stability. You entered an economy that is contracting, that punishes average effort with stagnation. He stood on an escalator going up. You are on a treadmill going nowhere. And the cruelest part is that everyone around you, the politicians, the pundits, the older relatives at family gatherings, keeps asking why you are not further along. They look at your degree and your job title and they cannot understand why you are still renting, why you are not married, why you have not figured it out. They do not see the weights on your legs. They do not see the math. Here is something else they do not see. The middle class is not just struggling, it is shrinking, measurably, statistically, visibly, if you know where to look. In 1971, 61% of American adults lived in middle-income households. 61%, that was the majority, that was the center of gravity. By 2021, that number had dropped to 50%, 11 percentage points gone. In one lifetime, where did they go? Some moved up. About a third of the shrinkage went to upper-income households, the educated, the lucky, the ones who happened to be in the right industry at the right time. But the rest moved down, not into poverty necessarily, but into a zone that has no name, a zone where you make too much to qualify for help, but too little to feel stable, a zone where one emergency separates you from crisis, a zone that feels like middle class but does not function like middle class. This is where you live now. This is where tens of millions of Americans live, working full-time, sometimes more than full-time, and still unable to achieve the things that were once considered baseline for a normal life. A home, a family, retirement, security. These are not luxuries. These are not extravagances. These are the things the middle class was supposed to provide, and they are slipping out of reach. Let me tell you what this actually feels like, because numbers only tell part of the story. It feels like standing in a grocery store, looking at a carton of eggs that cost $7, and doing mental math before putting it in your cart. It feels like checking your bank account before every purchase, not because you are poor, but because you are never quite sure. It feels like pretending you are fine, telling your friends you are fine, telling your parents you are fine, because you do not have the vocabulary to explain that you are not fine without sounding ungrateful or dramatic. It feels like watching people on the internet talk about their investment portfolios, their second homes, their passive income, and wondering if you are missing something obvious, some trick everyone else knows. It feels like guilt, because you have more than many people. You are not suffering the way others are suffering. So what right do you have to feel like this? It feels like exhaustion, bone deep, the kind that does not go away with sleep, the kind that comes from running as fast as you can and staying in the same place. That is what the collapse of the middle class feels like. Not dramatic, not sudden, just slow, quiet, personal, like drowning in 3 feet of water. So what is the point of all this? I am not going to tell you what to do. I do not have a solution that fits in a sentence. The forces shaping this economy are massive, systemic, decades in the making. No individual action will fix what is structurally broken. But I will tell you this. You are not crazy. You are not lazy. You are not bad with money. You are not failing. The math is failing you. The economy your parents knew is gone. The rules they followed no longer produce the same results. The script they handed you was written for a world that does not exist anymore. And once you see that, really see it, something shifts. You stop blaming yourself for not achieving the impossible. You stop measuring your progress against a yardstick that was calibrated in 1975. You stop believing that if you just worked a little harder, saved a little more, optimized a little better, everything would fall into place. It would not, because the game has changed. The question now is not how to succeed by the old rules. The question is how to build a life that makes sense in this economy. The real one. The one that exists now. That might mean redefining what security looks like. It might mean letting go of milestones that were never really yours, just inherited expectations from a different era. It might mean finding stability and flexibility rather than in the traditional anchors that no longer hold. I do not know exactly what it looks like. I'm not sure anyone does yet. But I know it starts with clarity. It starts with understanding the math, not to feel hopeless, but to feel sane. Because you are not behind. The finish line moved, and that is not your fault. You are still here, still working, still trying, still showing up for a life that keeps getting more expensive and less forgiving. That is not failure. That is endurance. And in an economy designed to exhaust you, endurance is its own kind of success. The middle class is not what it used to be, but you're still standing in the middle of your own life, trying to make sense of it, trying to build something real. That matters, even when the math says it should not. Especially then,